Welcome back, everyone. The iPhone 13 Pro just ended up coming out, so let's take a look at it compared against the iPhone 12 Pro Max, another massive device, the main flagship of last year. Now, if you want to pick up either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, side by side, you can definitely tell that the iPhone 13 Pro is a much smaller phone. You have a 6.1-inch OLED panel on the iPhone 13 Pro, where the iPhone 12 Pro Max has a massive 6.7-inch OLED panel. Now, this is a much bigger panel. I think when you look at them side by side, it may look a little bit better. I don't know, but the iPhone 13 Pro has that ProMotion display, which automatically annihilates the iPhone 12 Pro Max's display, and it essentially is that 120 Hz refresh rate. It makes everything on the screen look so much more smooth. The 12 Pro Max is still a very good panel at that 60 Hz, and iOS is very smooth inherently, but definitely the iPhone 13 Pro is probably the better panel. You have a smaller notch on the iPhone 13 Pro as well, but you don't really tell because the iPhone 12 Pro Max panel is such a big phone. I mean, when you hold these, in your hands, yes, they have the flat sides and they kind of have the same type of feeling to it, but definitely the iPhone 13 Pro is a much smaller phone and it is a lighter phone as well. Now, in terms of the side, you can definitely see that they both have flat sides. The thickness is kind of the same. I don't really think one is way thicker or way thinner. I kind of get the same vibe for both, so not a big difference at all. And on the back, you have that frosted glass back on both, which is beautiful. I love these type of frosted glass backs, triple camera setups as well, and they are massive sensors on both. In fact, I think they are almost the same. Maybe the 13 Pro is actually a bigger size still, which is so crazy. They have wireless charging on both, MagSafe capability, which is great, lightning port at the bottom, power button on the side, IP certification, everything like that, the whole 9 yards. And definitely when it comes down to it, they're both very similar, but yet very different. The size is the number one differentiating factor between these two. And the iPhone 12 Pro Max is still a heavier phone as well. So in terms of that, that covers it up there. Now, in terms of longevity, speaking, iOS updates in the future and all this crazy stuff, the iPhone 13 Pro has a higher chance of beating out the iPhone 12 Pro Max when it comes down to it. So what does that mean? Well, essentially, 4 or 5 years from now, the iPhone 12 Pro Max will be on its last leg, where the iPhone 13 Pro is still going to be able to get those updates. So that's a really cool thing, Of course, you're spending more money on this phone, so it's going to make sense. But the crazy thing is that the iPhone 13 Pro and the iPhone 12 Pro Max, at least in the used market for this phone and this phone, they're kind of different. The iPhone 13 Pro is $1,000 brand new. You can pick up an iPhone 12 Pro Max in the used market as of right now for less than $1,000, but probably when you're watching this 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now, it's going to be even cheaper than that. So you're going to be able to get this one for cheaper than an iPhone 13 Pro, at least in the used market. So that's a big thing to keep in mind as well. Now let's go and do a speed comparison between both of these iPhones. The iPhone 13 Pro has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM, where the iPhone 12 Pro Max has that Apple A14 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigabytes of RAM as well. So let's go and see which one is a faster iPhone between both of these. Okay, there we go. Let's go and clear all the apps in the background, which they are cleared out. Let's do phone calls, 3, 2, 1. And pretty much the same thing here, not a big difference. Music, 3, 2, 1. And definitely I think the iPhone 13 Pro is the faster one here. This one was a bit behind. Let's get into their app stores. 3, 2, 1. And you can see pretty much the same thing. Scrolling wise, pretty much the same thing here too. Clicking here, I think the 13 Pro is a little bit faster. Hopping out of this specific app, Apple TV 3, 2, 1. I think it's going to be the same thing. The 13 Pro much faster. 12 Pro Max, 2 different panels. So we'll kind of let this one slide as well, but we'll load it in the background for RAM. Mail 3, 2, 1. I think they're about the same. Clock 3, 2, 1. About the same thing too. Photos 3, 2, 1. Pretty much the same thing as well. Not really seeing a big difference. Let's do settings. 3, 2, 1. Pretty much the same thing too. Not really seeing a massive difference between them, but I am telling a big difference in terms of the smoothness factor. The iPhone 13 Pro seems much smoother because of that 120 Hz refresh rate. Now, as always, we have a bunch of these third-party apps we can test out. Let's go and do the original Temple Run. 3, 2, 1. And a little bit of a different pop-up on both, so we'll just kind of have to let this one slide, which sucks. Snapchat 3, 2, 1. I think the 12 Pro Max was a little bit faster there, but they were still kind of the same. Let's go and do Instagram 3, 2, 1. Both about the same too, but you guys will be able to tell the camera which one was faster. Twitter 3, 2, 1. 13 Pro was faster. 12 Pro Max was stuck on that panel for a second. Facebook, which I don't have here, Netflix, 3, 2, 1. 13 Pro is faster. 12 Pro Max, a little bit behind. I don't know what it is with these older phones getting stuck in those, loading panels. The XS Max experiences the same thing. Let's do Quizlet, 3, 2, 1. 13 Pro is faster. Dropbox, I do not have here. Bofa, I also don't have here. Temple Run 2, 3, 2, 1. And I don't know which one is going to be. Maybe the 13 Pro here. It does look like it kind of got out of that loading panel faster than the 12 Pro Max. And that does seem to be the case. So the 12 Pro Max was a little bit behind here, but they are so similar that I'm even like catching myself saying like, oh, this one may be faster, this one may be faster, because they are so neck and neck. In terms of app opening, they are very, very similar between the two. So I'll definitely tell you, if you have an iPhone 13 Pro or 12 Pro Max, I don't think I would go from one iPhone to the other just based off speed. They both kind of give me the same impression. I don't think one is way faster or extremely, like, if anything, that 13 Pro is the faster one, I'll definitely tell you. But they both are very similar, that if I had an iPhone 12 Pro Max or an iPhone 13 Pro, even the Pro Max, I wouldn't really go to the iPhone 13 Pro Max or the iPhone 13 Pro just based off performance, just because they are so similar. So in terms of that, that covers it up there. Now let's go and hit on the cameras. Now on the back of both these phones, you can see they have pretty much the same setup. So you have a wide-angle lens, telephoto lens, and an ultra-wide sensor, which is great. LiDAR sensors on both phones as well. But on top of that, you do have the same video resolutions you can film in. So you can do 4K at 60 on the back and on the front of both of these devices. So you're really not even missing out on anything there. And in terms of the cameras UIs, I mean, they're pretty much the same exact thing too. I mean, the 12 Pro Max is here. You will not be able to tell too big of a difference. I mean, portrait mode on both. The main difference is that you do now have this new cinematic mode on the iPhone 13 Pro, which I actually do like. I think it's a really cool feature. I think it still needs a little bit of fixing. Like I mentioned, I filmed a couple videos on it for this channel. It didn't really work out too well, but I think it's good enough for the most part. Now with the iPhone 12 Pro Max camera, I mean, this thing is still perfect. Like I mentioned, you have the same video resolutions you can film in. So 4K 60 on the front and the back of this thing, and you are not missing out on really anything between these two phones. Cinematic mode is a cool feature. I think they could have easily brought it into this phone, but overall, this is a very solid lens. You have the telephoto lens, you can zoom in a lot. You have the ultra-wide sensor, you can zoom out a lot, and it's still a fairly smooth experience zooming in and zooming out. I think the 13 Pro kind of brings a little bit more smoothness to it, but it's still a very good camera without a doubt. Now with the iPhone 13 Pro, this is a more enhanced, better version of the 12 Pro Max for sure. This is a very, very solid camera. I mean, you have that ultra-wide sensor just like the other phone, but you have that telephoto lens too. And one thing, I mean, zooming in and zooming out when you use those lenses, it is not as choppy as you may think. Like, it just is such a seamless experience, and I really do like that. Before, even with like the 11 Pro Max to the 12 Pro Max, there was still a noticeable glitch, as you guys saw. Now that glitch kind of went away, which is a really cool, impressive thing for sure. So definitely when it comes down to the camera setup, I like the 12 Pro Max camera. It's still very good, but the 13 Pro series has actually gotten a pretty decent upgrade. I still don't think it's perfect, and I really don't even think the quality is that much better, but the fundamentals, the cinematic mode and the zooming in and zooming out of this camera is much smoother than the 12 Pro Max or any other iPhone done before. So now that brings us to the end of the video, and to be honest, I think, still, if you have a 12 Pro Max, it's still a really, like, if this phone was a 10 out of 10, this is like a 9.9 out of 10. The only thing that it's missing in reality from the 13 Pro, or even the Pro Max, is pretty much the 120 hertz refresh rate. Everything else is pretty much subjective, like this, the camera quality. I mean, they were kind of the same from what I even tested. The only other thing that's pretty massively different between the two is the battery life. The 13 Pro actually does have a better battery life from my test that I did than the iPhone 13 Pro Max, or the 12 Pro Max. So if you're getting an iPhone 12 Pro Max, do keep in mind that even though the battery sizes are a little bit different, from my test, this phone actually had better battery life, which is weird. So I don't know if this is going to be forever. iOS 15, like I mentioned, has taken a toll on all these older iPhones. But if you're somebody who wants to get the best battery life, the Pro Max is probably the better way to go, but the Pro is still very good. The 12 Pro Max, if you have it right now, I would keep it. And personally, if I was kind of on a budget, I would probably end up buying a 12 Pro Max just because, like I mentioned, you can probably get it for a cheaper price tag than the iPhone 13 Pro. But that doesn't mean that it's a better phone. This is not a better phone as a whole compared to the 13 Pro. They're pretty similar, and I'm actually surprised about the similarity between them. So that pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.